Well, hi, and welcome back to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brenda Reese, and I'm really happy that you're here today because today I'm joined by a remarkable guest, Riana Malia. Now, I said that correct, right? Thank you. A board-certified neurosomatic practitioner and the creator of the Clear to Create method. Riana works with high-achieving women who've built the career, the family, and the lifestyle they dreamed of, yet still find themselves stuck in the same painful relationship patterns. Through a powerful blend of neurosomatic practices, the NLP and quantum time release, which, I want to hear more about that, she helps women clear the subconscious imprints and somatic patterns that have held them back so they can finally claim extraordinary love that matches the life that they've built. Now, today in our conversation, we're going to explore, amongst other things, the role of forgiveness in true healing, why self-forgiveness is often the hardest yet most liberating step, and how hidden blueprints from childhood shape the way we love and live. If you've ever wondered how to break free from cycles of shame, resentment, or betrayal without reliving the trauma, this episode will open new doors for you. Welcome, Riana, to the Forgive Yourself podcast.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yes, I just love, I started off the conversation with, oh my God, I love what you do. not even a hi or hello. It was just, I love what you do and what you bring. And I'm thrilled that the listeners get to hear from you and about your journey and how you help people and who you are. And so if you don't mind, I'd love to start off with what brought you here.
Absolutely. So all of us have a story, right? I mean, especially in the healers and the light workers and most of us who are really good at what we do, it didn't come from an easy life.
No.
And I think that's important. So my story, like all of our stories, starts in childhood. And my parents met in Maui. I'm an island girl. I got divorced pretty quickly when I was 2. But so we moved back to Minnesota. My father moved to California. And I had the most incredible grandparents, my Grammy and Bumpy. They were my anchors.
I love that. Grammy and Bumpy.
Grammy and Bumpy. I miss them every day. So I grew up, my mama was a single mama. So, my dad wasn't really around, didn't participate, didn't help. He'd pop in, maybe I'd see him once a year, maybe. He had another family here.
Okay.
So in California, when I say here. But then when I went off to college, he said, listen, I didn't help your mom. I didn't help you on to pay for your room and board for freshman year. And I was like, that is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, 18, go off to college. About 6 or 7 weeks in, I get a call. Your bill was never paid and you're maxed on student loans. So you have to leave the dorm. And I'm 18, right? And my mom had just moved to Canada. So
whoa.
So I was like, okay, I can either just forget it and leave and I don't know what I'll do. Or here's the thing before I even say what I did. So often when we're faced with things, whether we're 18 or 48 or 78, that we feel like that tightness in our chest and like, I don't really know how to do this or what to do or how to get through this. We often think we don't have the resources, time, money, energy, support, which shuts us down from possibility.
Yeah.
But what I believe is that it's really about tapping into the resourcefulness because it's there in every one of us, right? We have that fire that says, this is not it for me. So I moved out of the dorm, got 3 jobs, rented a 5-bedroom house, filled the other 4 bedrooms, somehow convinced a couple of my great friends that they didn't need to live in the dorm either. And their parents wrote letters saying they had back problems and they needed a bathtub. Like, it was crazy how they got out of it, but it was great. So here we are. And did school. Child stuff, you can't articulate, you can't process it. But that was the first time where I really it anchored in that I wasn't important. And
yes,
I didn't matter. And I knew how much my mama and my Grammy and my Bumpy, but there's this desire to have this dad that I never had. And feeling like the first time that he was really wanted to be in my life and support me and help me in this time. And then just to not even take care of it. And I didn't even know.
Right. Yeah.
So, then I went and got married. And 10 out of 10, don't get married when you're 23. You're a baby. My baby is going to be 22 in a month and a half. And she's a baby. Like, no. Well, anyway, but Midwest, whatever. We do things early. But somewhere in my unconscious, I decided that like I was going to be an old cat lady and nobody was going to love me. And so it's probably a really good idea that I really push to get married right now. You can imagine. So
yes, I can.
We were too young and there was a bunch of other stuff and it was a really lonely marriage. And Maddie was literally a miracle child in every way you can imagine. There was no intimacy, like miracle child. And then when she was 6, it was just too hard. And so we made this decision and it, it's painful, even though, it's not right. And it's not the right thing for anybody. You still grieve and mourn what you wanted for your family and your life and your future. And we went to mediation and we had this beautiful conversation. And literally the next day, he took Maddie to his house the next day for the weekend. And I called her and there was a woman there and her child. And apparently so all of the safety that I had felt around Maddie being put first, gone, game over. And now I was like a psychopath. Like it turned so volatile and I was so upset and so nervous and so angry that we just spent all this time promising that Maddie's going to come first and let her adjust for the year and all the things that we decided together. And it was just out the window. So then it turned into a horrific situation, awful. So about 3 years after that, so that Maddie was 6, so now she's 9. My dad had been in and out, he's a brilliant, super creative, super smart, super charming. He can make everything beautiful, but he's also 100% narcissist and, leads you to believe things that aren't exactly true.
Yes.
So he comes to visit and it was spring and this had been a winter where there was more days than I could count that was like 30, 40 below zero.
Oh.
And Maddie and I lived in this 100-year-old little cottage in Afton, Minnesota. We had horses and chickens. And we had a pond that in the summer, every Saturday, I would go to the farm store and get blue dye for lake dye. And I would dye it blue so we could feel like we were in the ocean in our floaties. And it was kind of magical and amazing. But it was so cold that the metal on the water pump snapped off and you can't do anything about it. The ground is frozen. So for 3 more months of the winter, I had to every day take a hose, run it into the window of my little house, undo my washing machine, hook the hose up, water the horses, and then undo it. Like so many tears. Like I am an island baby. I'm not made out for these winters. Anyway, so along comes my dad, comes to visit, and I'm, single mama, working hard. I'm in the personal development space, but also head of practice development for the largest independent oncology group in the Midwest.
Okay.
And he says, you know what? I think it's the perfect time for you guys to move to California and for you to come take over this family business. Just this magical little fantasy candle business. Gorgeous, bespoke little boutique here in Mill Valley. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like an easy out, if I'm being honest.
Warmth.
Warmth and like built-in income and outlet for me to my brilliance and my creativity. And Maddie gets to grow up in this little town at the base of Mount Tam and we can go to the beach every Saturday. And but that other part of me was like, no, this is really bad. But so I said to him, I'm like, look, my mom had just had a surgery on a vertebrae in her neck and a disc, and they hit a nerve, and she couldn't use her right arm, and she did nails her whole life. So she was not only in pain, but couldn't work. So I was caring for her, and she lived literally 2 blocks away. But I said, well, I'm not leaving the horses. I'm not leaving my mom. And I moved around a lot as a little girl. And I said, I'm only moving Maddie once, so I can't come on some whim of a maybe. And he said, I promise you, the capital is there. You can see it. You can have full control of it. It's yours. Maddie can go whatever school she wants to. We'll take care of your mount. Like all those things. So my 2 best girlfriends, who were like my chosen sisters since we were 9, are like tears. Like, no, we don't, you can't trust him. And for me internally, it was like not red flags. It was like somebody took out 15 billboards in Times Square. Screaming at me, no. And I just ignored it all. I packed up my mom, of course, my daughter, 2 horses, 3 cats, and drove across the country. I mean, I didn't drive the horses. He had somebody come get them. So we got here and it was magical for the first few months. I did have a pit in my stomach, and I did feel like something was off, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I kind of started questioning because I wasn't trusting my own intuition at this point either. So
Right.
like maybe it's nerves. Maybe it's just being here. I don't know anybody, right? Maybe it's just all this change and wanting to make sure Maddie's happy and feels, like she has community. So 6 or 7 months in, I was in the back. It was December 1st. And this guy had come to take all the mailers because he had done it last year at this post office and there was something wrong with the bulk mail thing. So he's just going to come do it for me. He had worked there when I wasn't there in the year prior. So he comes and shows up. Anyway, he's getting ready to leave. All of a sudden, I hear this kind of noise in the front. So I think, oh, maybe somebody's coming into the studio. And I turn around and I'm faced with, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe more federal agents, guns drawn, pointed at me, and I'm put in handcuffs and told to sit down. Oh. And they proceed to tell me all these things, which we don't have time to talk about today. Okay. But Maddie was supposed to be coming home from school in 20 minutes with a new friend for the very first time. My mom was picking up. I'm like, I need to call my mom and tell her to take the girls to frozen yogurt. And they're like, no, you're not calling anybody. And thankfully, when they arrived, they took me out of handcuffs and let me hug her. And she was crying. She's like, what's going on? And I made up a complete story that it was something that happened on the side lot and that we were trying to figure out who that was. And she didn't know any of this until she went off to college. So I kept all of this from her for 9 years.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's not hers to carry. And I'm very sensitive about that because I didn't get to be a child.
Yeah.
So, anyway, now I'm in California. I no longer have any income. I no longer have this idyllic fantasy of this family relationship. And I don't know anybody here. And I had to make a decision because we could have gone back to Minnesota in a heartbeat, right back into the arms of the people that loved us. It would have been fine. Or I could keep my promise. And that was more important to me because I promised her I was only going to do that once, no matter what it took. So we stayed. And she grew up in Mill Valley and it was the best thing ever. And, it was several $100,000 of debt later for me, but I figured it out. I tapped into that. I went and got a real estate license and then I was coaching all the local realtors on building their business and especially the women. And so I did some things, but in the face of that betrayal, I went back to therapy, right? So after my divorce, I did all the things we're told to do. I talked about it in therapy. I talked about it with my girlfriends. I read the books. I did the whole Brene Brown weekend thing. I drank the wine. I did all the things. So I did it again after this. I was just like, what? Who does this? Not only me, but my baby. That's it. You don't put my child in danger for any reason. And I was writing the letters to him and not sending them because you don't fuel the fire with narcissists. You just cut them off. Otherwise, they just keep coming at you.
Right.
You think you're crazy. So all of a sudden, though, it had been some months in therapy and telling the story and it just reactivated it. And I was either ragefully angry or so sad that I could barely breathe. And those were my two states of being.
Yeah.
And of course, when, I can be happy and with Maddie and stuff when she's come home from school, but I was processing so much anger and so much sadness and so much shame and embarrassment. So I had to go because it was in the newspaper. I had to go into my office and be like, can we please pull all the IJs off every desk? And I'm sobbing and they're like, what happened? And I'm trying to explain this. I mean, it was just so, and then of course, and no one would ever say this to me, but there was that voice in my head that said, see, I told you so. Why, what, I told you not to do this. So anyway, all of that shame and not trusting myself and making these decisions. And then there was a relationship after, we'd been here a few years. So this was later, but I'd met somebody and I knew it was the same thing where I knew in the moment this person was so far from the person for me. But again, I'm like, no one's ever going to love me. And so I allowed myself to get into a relationship that was pretty awful and very unhealthy and took me longer than I'd care to admit to get out of. But when I was doing this work and going to therapy and doing the things, at a certain point, you just get sick of the story. And I don't even know who it was. Somebody started talking about something that made me go down a rabbit hole, and I found some work that then became the basis of what is my life's work. And in a matter of weeks, there was parts of me that I didn't recognize in all the best way. And I was able to fully forgive my father. Now, he doesn't get a seat at the table. He doesn't get access. I haven't spoken to him in all those years, even though like he'll still send texts and whatever every once in a while to try to like, and I just delete them. But when we are holding all of that pain and all of that anger, it's that whole thing. I'm going to drink this poison and I'm going to hope you die. And it doesn't work that way. And it just has its hook in you. And it's like when you forgive and you can take that hook out of your heart because it's not yours to carry. And I don't care if they're dead or alive or next door or across the world. It's not for them. It's not even about them. And it doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't let anybody off the hook. But it says, I am going to own my stuff. And you no longer get to have control over my thoughts, my feelings, my behavior, my emotions. It's not mine to carry. And it's like letting that piece go and understanding it doesn't make any of it okay. But I want to be happy. I want a life. I want to be the best mama for Maddie. I want to find my person. I want all of those things that I know are meant for me. But if I stay in this place of all the stuff and all the negative emotion and all the drama, it's a guarantee I would never get any of that.
No.
And on the other side of this work that I've created, next month, I'm celebrating my 2-year wedding anniversary with the most incredible human being on this earth. I never thought I would find my person. He couldn't be a more perfect husband for me. And it's just incredible. So I started this work and I created this work for me first.
Yes.
And then came the actual, the methodology and the frameworks and the intellectual property and all the things. But I started it for me. And now have been able to do this work with hundreds of women. And it's such an honor because, like I've talked a lot about Maddie, but it doesn't just affect the women that I work with. This is for their children, their grandchildren, or their future grandchildren, anyone in their life. It just changes everything.
I love everything. And I'm sorry. On one hand, I'm sad you had to go through that. But then on the other hand, I understand why you had to go through that.
1,000%. And had I not, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm called to do in this world.
Absolutely
it
not.
Wouldn't have existed. And had I not, I wouldn't have my incredible husband in my life. And had I not, all kinds of things, right? We can't go backwards anyway, but I really do believe when we talk about gratitude that we can't just be grateful for the good things. We have to actually be grateful for it all.
I was thinking as you were talking about, you had this pattern, this belief for a long time that played out in your life.
Yes.
And was that part of your healing process? Was identifying that? It really, because today you could say, or through your work, you could say, oh, this is what I thought. But at the time, we don't think that. And so for you to get to this point, which I'm sure a lot of the listeners are like, okay, how did you meet Mr. Right? Right?
Yeah.
How'd you do that? And it's like, well, there's some steps we get to take for ourselves before then. And part of forgiveness for me is identifying those things. Right? So when you look at how your self-worth was and the patterns you had, the steps you had to take, what were some of the things that you felt led to the point of being able to love yourself enough to be able to be in a relationship? Because that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like, and we'll talk about that, but I want to talk just for a second about the forgiveness piece, right? Because there's always 3 people in every situation you have to forgive. You have to forgive the person that hurt you. You have to forgive the person or the people that didn't stop it from happening or show up in the way that they could or should. And you have to forgive yourself. And the last one is always the hardest. Absolutely bring me back if I don't answer your question, because sometimes I start going off and I never answer the question. So, but when you ask me that, what I think about is Like why, like what is the clear to create method, like from all of that? And part of that is because even since I was a young person, like in my teens, like I've always had this like affinity for the phrase your very best life. So it's been my tagline forever. Whether we've been best friends for 50 years or we met in the coffee line, that's literally what I want for you. I want you to live your version of your very best life. And that's different for every one of us.
Yeah.
But you can't go from being held back by the pain and the trauma and the past and the limiting decisions and the limiting beliefs and the voice in your head and the betrayals and the loss and all. You can't go from that to living your very best life. It doesn't work that way. We have to clear before we can create.
Absolutely.
We have to clear the story to create the life. If you want a different story, you have to stop telling the old one. That's where it all begins.
Yeah.
And we have to clear the cycles to create the confidence, right? When we don't trust ourselves, because we're like, I don't know, I thought I knew. Look how that turned out. And then I keep making the same thing. So I don't trust myself because we have all this evidence and all these cycles that keep showing up. You know, I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm both in the same moment, like all the things. So we have to clear the cycles to create the confidence. And we have to clear the patterns to create the partnerships. We want loving, healthy, deep, connected partnerships romantically, in our friendships, professionally, with our family. But when we bring all the old patterns, all that old unconscious wiring that you're not even fully aware of, because a lot of it is a really unconscious situation, we don't get those partnerships. We get more of the same, which is everything we don't want. And we have to clear the loss to create the love. So that's the basis, and that's the whole methodology. And then the how is the quantum pattern protocol. That's the framework. So this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it. And that involves 3 phases: clear, create, and claim. But it really starts with, before you can even clear, you have to get crystal clear. And one of the things I ask my clients, you know, on the other side of this work or any work, right? Your vision of unstuck or healed or whatever.
Yeah.
What are you doing or not doing differently than you're doing or not doing right now? What lights you up? What makes you feel alive? Gives you that sense of purpose. And 9 times out of 10, that brings tears. And I don't know how to answer that question. I was a wife for so long, or I was a wife and a mom, or I was this, and now I'm empty nester, and I didn't plan on being divorced at this age, and I have no idea because I put everybody else first. I don't know who I am or what I want. And what I see, especially in high achieving or ambitious or heart-led women, they almost always get what they want, and they never do. And that's that clarity piece. So getting to that at the beginning, it's kind of like if we went into a restaurant, we wouldn't walk in and say, I would like a beverage, a protein, a salad, and a side. And they bring us an iced tea, a pork chop, some roasted carrots, and a Caesar salad. And we got exactly what we ordered.
Right.
But we wanted a glass of Chardonnay and a piece of salmon and some roasted asparagus and an arugula salad with fresh figs and goat cheese. See the difference? And that's what happens in life. And so we got to create your own menu, right? So we have to get clear so then we can clear all of the stuff that isn't yours to carry, that isn't who you are. And so we do that in what I call a dysfunction detox. That's where quantum time release comes in, where we get to clear it in a painless, peaceful way. Because the thing about our body, if you think about it, is everything in the neck up is our conscious mind, right? And it is our critical faculties. It's everything we know. It's our goal setter. We use it all day long. It's 10%. But everything from the neck down, the rest of our body, then the other 90% is our unconscious mind. So if the conscious is our goal setter, the unconscious is the goal getter. It's the operating system. And most importantly, in my opinion, it is the literal library of everything you've ever experienced in your entire life. And it's held at a cellular level. We think about memory being in the brain, and of course it lives in the circuitry, but it's cellular. We see that with animals, with generational stuff, with people that get an organ transplant and they hated pickles their whole life and now they crave them, come to find out that the person's heart that they got, that was their favorite food. Memory is cellular. And when it doesn't get released properly, we see things manifest in the body. anxiety, depression, overwhelm, autoimmune disorders, illness, injury, disease, because it's killing us. It's eating away and it's so heavy. And it's like, if you don't release it, then you don't have room for what's actually meant for you, right? I did this thing the other day that felt like Christmas to me. So I was sharing with you before we started recording that, 49, perimenopause, bit of ADD. I love lists. I love organizing, but also stuff piles up around me. And I'm just like, I can't deal with that. I'm going to close the door. So that was my pantry and it was full and full and full. So I took everything out. I was it took me 4 hours and I was just giddy. And my husband was laughing so hard. So I took everything out. I cleaned it all. And there were so many things in there. It was like expired, pasta sauce and half open boxes of orzo that who knows how long, just all that stuff that was like, I had to get rid of it. Threw it all away. It's like 4 garbage bags. And then I put it all back and in the bins. And it's like, feels like Christmas to me when I open the pantry.
Yeah.
But it's the same here. You got to get rid of the expired ways of thinking and how you process and the old story and all the old neurology so that you can actually have room for really meant for you. And the way that quantum time release does that is it is a multidimensional technique that's been used for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. There's not a lot of us in the world that do it, but it combines alchemical forgiveness and being able to transmute and release all the negative energy. But if you think about those negative emotions, and we release in a particular order, so I'm just going to list them in that order, is anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, and then all those limiting beliefs. I'm not enough. No one's going to love me. I'm too broken, whatever.
Yes.
And every single one of those has a ribbon. Okay. Imagine that there's a ribbon. And in our life, every time for that root cause thing that we don't have conscious memory of, that we have a significant emotional experience with any of those emotions, I want you to imagine that a marble goes on the ribbon. Okay. So the anger ribbon, there's 30, 40, 50, 60 years of marbles. So when today something happens, makes us angry, it's not so much about the today, it's the 50 years of marbles. It's the gestalt. It's the sum of the whole. That's what's here. And that is what we get to release without going back into any conscious memory of anything that caused pain or trauma in the first place.
Beautiful.
And actually transmute that and anchor in the soul learnings that you needed to know to bring you back to the truth of who you really are. And the most incredible part of that process, at least for me, is in between each release, I will say, okay, now I want you to actually go back to a very specific event in your past where that emotion was a problem. And I want you to see if it still has a charge, though you may realize it does not. And this is where the magic happens, where somebody will go back to something, they'll think about something, and they'll look at me and they'll be like, if you would have asked me about this 2 hours ago, I would have started to cry. My hands would have gotten clammy. My heart would be racing. And they're like, the charge is gone. And this gives people the ability to, instead of standing in their story, to stand on it and not have their entire lives run by all of that old stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So it's very powerful. And then, after we do that, then we get to step into this, who are you now?
Yes.
You now, with all of that stripped away and all of that old stuff gone and the society and the conditioning and all the old story. And, it's fun because you may have not seen her in a really long time. You maybe have never met her, but now you get to. And then we get to move into that create phase. And that's, where now what we've figured out what you want and who you are and gotten rid of all the stuff that's not serving you, that's not yours to carry, probably never was from the beginning. Now we get to start to add things back in, because I really do believe a lot of this type of work in the world focuses really heavy on clarity. Obviously, both critical for any growth, transformation, healing, whatever. It's the foundation, but 90% of it doesn't give you the skills to go with the knowledge. So you end up in this maddening loop of okay, I had some ahas. That's amazing. I connected some dots. I made some progress. And then it's life happens, because it always will. And instead of even staying at that little progress place, you go right back to where you started. It's why people will come to us and say, I've been in therapy for years. I've done the retreats in Costa Rica. I've journaled every night for 26 months in a row. Why am I still stuck? Why do I keep doing the same thing? Well, because you got rid of stuff, but you didn't reinstall new neurology and behavior and all of strategy. So that's where we get to do that. And then we really, now that we know all of this, we take what it is that you want and we do something where it's basically a reverse engineering of goals, but whether it's a relationship goal or a money goal or a wellness goal or starting a new business or learning how to paint or speak Italian, it doesn't matter what it is, but we reverse engineer it. So we start at the end. And then I ask you, like, let's just say for ease, right? By December 31st, 2025 or sooner, I'm celebrating booking a flight to Italy for next summer, whatever. Okay, great. And what has to happen in the second before you could call me and say, I booked my flight? Like, what has to happen right before you know you achieved that?
Ooh,
Okay.
love it.
Like, I got the confirmation number. I booked the flight. I hit the thing and they emailed me my confirmation, right? So my flight is booked. Okay. So that's the moment that we want to focus on. Okay. And the reason is we're going to go install that on your future timeline. And we're going to ignite the reticular activating system in the brain.
Nice.
To be laser focused on looking for the people, the opportunities, the resources, the experiences that you need to make sure that this actually becomes a reality. And what's so powerful about that is, the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's actually happened and something that you can visualize with all the senses.
Yes.
So I have you make it a picture, and then I have you step into it and we make it a movie, and you adjust the color and the sound. And I ask you, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? Like all the things. So now we've created new neural pathways in a direction. And then what we do is we micro step backwards from the end to today. And the question is, what has to happen just before that? Just before that. So when we look at traditional goals, or goal setting rather, it's why 95% of us never actually finish them or achieve them, because we're like, okay, I'm setting a goal right now. By the end of the year, I'm booking a trip to Italy. Amazing. What do we have to do? Well, I need to do this and this, and I need to book my flight. Well, you missed 80% of the most important steps because the unconscious mind can't fill in the blank that way. But when we go backwards, we can. Which then moves us into my favorite, which is the claiming. And this is where you get to own it and integrate it and embody it. But this is also the place where you get to fall in love with yourself again. Oh, trust yourself and confidently hold boundaries and expertly communicate your needs, and then really deepen the richness in every single one of those relationships that you have in your life without needing any external permission ever again from anyone else. And then we integrate that into our decisions, into our energies, into our relationships, into whatever we're doing, so that we get to embody her and we get to live and lead and love from this new frequency. And you just get to go and, show.
Oh, I love it. That is amazing. Now, this came from your process, what you were going through, right? So do you work with women one-on-one or groups, or how do you do that?
It's always private.
Always
I don't do group. This is not a group.
No, it didn't seem like it.
Not even a program. It's there's a few ways to do it depending on the person, but it's all private and it's one-to-one, and we're not talking months and years, it's weeks. It's fast.
I was going to say, how long what's the average kind of time that you spend with women?
There's a couple of things, and I'll just share that with you because it's, everyone's like, I hate when somebody says this and they're like, oh, you have to have a call with me for me to share that. And I think that's so silly. So the kind of what I call like the main offer is the Clear to Create Quantum Intensive. And I typically like to design it around 8 sessions. Now, I will tell you, it has never, ever, ever, ever been done in 8 sessions, because no matter what, once or twice, I'm going to have something planned and designed and ready for us, and you're going to come to the call, and it's going to be clear to me that you need something else. So we're going to set that aside, and we're going to take care of you in the moment. So I always allow for what I call those bonus spaces, right? This is not rigid. This is not about, did you do module 1 and fill out your worksheet? It is you and me co-creating your life and your what's next together. And so I don't invite, I do a lot of calls and people will inquire and they'll get excited and we'll get on the phone, and I don't invite everybody into this work because it's a huge energetic exchange between the two of us. So I have to know that you're ready, like you're at your line in the sand moment. You've done this other stuff, you've done some therapy, you've done some stuff. but you know that there's more meant for you and your life and you're ready. And then there's the mastery experience, which starts with and includes that intensive because we want to get all of that done as fast as we can and get those fast results. So you're actually living this new life, if you will. But for women who want to be held in a bigger way, then we stay in relationship for the remainder of whatever 12 months time is left from the time we started the intensive.
Okay.
We co-create in real time. So relationship stuff, business planning, money, health. And so we spend those time together so that you get to have me by your side for the whole year. And so it's like the intensive does a beautiful job. We do all the clearing and all the creating, and it sets you up to step into that because the intensive in and of itself is perfect and whole and complete, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to step into that claiming phase. But for some people, they want to do more work in the claim phase because they're like, I don't trust myself to stay in the space. Like I need support so that I don't undo the thing, which is you can't undo it. But I know what you mean. It's like the self-fulfilling prophecy when we're like, I start a course and I never finish it. And I start an exercise thing and I never finish it. So people will ask me all the time, like, I'm just worried that I'm just not going to do it. And I'm like, well, the only way you can't do it is if you literally don't ever show up to be with me. Like, this is not, you're not left to your own vices, right? This is not you need to go read some book and do something. Like, no, we're done with that.
I love that. And I think it's important for people like to have a coach, mentor, whatever we want to call you or me or whoever is having someone in your corner.
Yeah.
One is like having someone. And then the other part that I always need, because I think it's important for us to have guides and mentors ourselves, is the fact of somebody can call me on my bullshit, right?
Yeah.
When I'm in resistance, because that'll happen as we're growing and claiming, there's going to be that whoop, that kind of stopping point. And so having someone there to guide you through is so valuable, especially when you're doing this deep work that you do, because forgiveness isn't an easy thing, and looking at these parts of our lives aren't necessarily easy. I love the fact that you said we don't have to relive it, because I believe that too. We do not have to relive it. And what you offer is a beautiful dimensional way to be able to work through that. And so I really like the process that you explained. Thank you, because it's really good for people to hear, right? Instead of I'm afraid to call her because I don't know what it's going to be like, and all of that. So the process you gave is beautiful. And I'd like to get your thoughts on you hear the word, you mentioned alchemical forgiveness, and people mention true forgiveness, right? What does it feel like to you when you're in forgiveness? Whether it's alchemical, true, whatever words we want to say.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what the silly fill-in words are.
Yeah.
What it feels like is, for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to tell you, I don't like to exercise. It's not my thing. I don't like it. So I'm not one of those women that's like, oh my God, I need yoga every day. I'm like, ugh, no. I wish I was.
Me too. Me too.
Really do. But for me, it feels like this. It feels like I have on all these clothes and they're like heavy. And then I have all this stuff, backpacks and weights and stuff. And plus I'm really restricted. Like I can't move and I'm feeling hot. And then it's so heavy. And I have to walk up this freaking hill. And I'm dying and I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm so out of shape. And when you forgive, you just like take it all off. I feel like the weight's gone. I'm not hot. I'm not walking uphill. I don't have this, like, I can like move freely again. I'm not tightened up for trying to protect myself all the time. Like, it just feels like, it's almost like I imagine, because I love glitter and sparkles. I always imagine like, I'm just like sparkled in like champagne fairy dust of like, that it just all goes away. And that's kind of when we do in quantum time release and we're in the field of pure potentiality and you're all of that negative. For me, when I'm in that space, that's what I see. All the negative energy that's being transmuted, it just turns into this gold glittery magic. And it's all about your imagination. Everybody's experience up there is different. Sometimes it's all black, sometimes there's colors, sometimes there's sounds. But I think too, it's just like what makes you feel magical and good and free. And for me, it's that kind of that visual, but that's what it feels like to me.
Oh, I love that visual. I love gold and sparkles and things. I'd love to touch on before we get more, we're getting closer to close, but I'd like to touch on, you mentioned in the beginning, and this is something that I have found too with my clients and myself. Why is self forgiveness often harder than forgiving others?
Mm.
And what do you suggest would be a first step for somebody in that?
I think the first step is literally understanding what forgiveness is, because
Mhm.
99% of people. So when I say the word forgiveness to most of my clients, they just get super resistant and they get
Yeah.
tense and they get a little defensive. And they're like, why would I forgive him or her or this best friend that I thought was going to be my best girlfriend for my whole life? And now
Yeah.
here we are at 50 and we don't talk about that hurt enough either with women with heart.
No.
And that's a thing. So that sisterhood wound, that midlife.
Yes, that's big.
But I think that I'm just going to give you why it's hard for me, because I don't know that I could give you like a clear answer of why I think it's hard for everybody. But
Mhm.
for me, it's just the pain of I did something or made a decision that hurt somebody else. So we're not perfect parents. And, I did when I did this work years ago, when I was doing the work and learning the work, I remember sitting there and I did forgiveness work in a mirror. And I was crying and I was crying and I was forgiving myself, that like things that were the hardest were like anything where I felt like I did something, not that hurt Maddie, but I wish I could take it back.
Yeah.
Like I remember a specific instance in particular that I wish I would have made a different decision. And I don't even know if she remembers it, but that's not the point. It's
Right.
what we carry.
It's what you
And,
carry.
and as much as we talk about forgiving other people and letting that go, I think the reason it's the hardest to forgive us is because we have to let it go for our own self. We have to say to your light, you get to put it down now. You don't have to carry this anymore. What you do from here on out is what matters. So it's like, I think it is the hardest and it hurts so much. It's because it's not something that somebody did to us. It's something
Yeah.
that we did. And I think that's why, at least for me, why it's the hardest.
Well, yeah, the shame, right? The shame that keeps us locked in it. I should have done better. I should have known better. Why did I do that? How come I didn't do that? And it becomes who we think we are, right? Versus, wait a minute, we all make mistakes. And what is the story that's keeping that locked in there? And it sounds like that's part of your process, which I really appreciate, is being able, because I think as women, especially, but men do too, carry so much guilt and shame, which is unhealthy, really, for us. And it's like you described it well with all the baggage and the clothing and everything on there. Oh my goodness. And I think too, I think I read somewhere that you say you believe too that forgiveness is a bridge.
Mm.
And that's one thing I've always called it.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a bridge from like our old self to new self, or from, survival to trusting ourselves.
I think forgiveness is probably one of the most powerful transformative practices of all of them. And we don't think about it that way. We think about doing the transformation work and therapy and coaching, and when the most transformative thing of all is usually the thing you want to do least, but usually because we don't really understand it. But it changes everything. Forgiveness.
Well, and it's not about letting the other person off the hook, right? As we've always heard, it's not about, you said it earlier, it's not about them.
Mm-mm.
And it's not excusing what happened. It's not even about that. And I think we have a wrong definition of it ourselves. That's why we have so much resistance towards it.
Because, that first reaction is, this person hurt me so deeply. Why would I ever forgive them? Well, because you're drinking the poison and you want them to die.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
No, and I've done that too, and I think that's why I teach forgiveness today, is because I've lived that. I get that. Oh my gosh, this conversation has been so wonderful and meaningful, and I really thank you so much. And I also want to mention there's a special gift that you have that I'd like to talk a little bit about your free diagnostic tool, right? And you call it Extraordinary Love Index. Is that correct?
The Ellie.
The Alley. Yes, I love it. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about it? Because I'm going to link that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Listeners.
So here's what I will say to anyone who's listening. Any stage of life, I invite you to give yourself this gift. So it's an actual diagnostic assessment. So this is not a Disney princess quiz. It is 40 questions. So set aside 10 or 15 minutes so you can actually have time with yourself to thoughtfully answer that. Because what we're looking at here, and you're going to see it says, what's standing between you and extraordinary love? And that doesn't just mean relationship, romantic love. It starts here with this love, right? And we look at 9 key areas, which also flow in and correspond to my frameworks and all the things. But we look at those 9 key areas: impact, trauma, attachment, how we communicate, how we perceive things, abandonment, all that stuff. And then I send you a 28-page personalized report that lays out all of that insight for you in a way in which you're going to have insight you probably never had. And even if you've done a ton of work, I promise you it will be valuable. And it's going to show you, like, all right, let's say you have a low score in this particular area, this is what you might be experiencing or feeling or dealing with in your life. Here's the cost of staying there. Here's what we can talk about that you could do right now to start moving out of that. So it's very powerful, and I would love to gift that to every single one listening.
I know, because I took it because, of course, I love learning about myself and other people. That's why I coach, is because it's fascinating. And what you offer too, looking at, like, my lowest score was trauma, and which is something that I really, it's a part of me, and so it's something that I'm always working with. And I really liked, just in that part, is getting ideas. And reading the report, you feel like you're seen.
Yes.
And so I highly recommend it to all my listeners here. You just get in there and don't give up on the questions.
Yeah. Don't stop at 26.
Don't stop, because it can be confronting. Don't walk away. Give yourself that 10 to 15 minutes and just really, because it can be confronting, but if we're not confronted, we can't transform, right? We can't change. We stay stuck. And that's not why we're here. We're not here to stay stuck.
No. And the first thing we have to do is make the invisible visible. So that we can transform.
Yes. I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I could talk to you for a long time.
I can't believe this has been an hour. It went by so.
I know. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. Oh my gosh. This has been a powerful and refreshing conversation with Riana. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And the listeners, I loved how she reminded us that forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about freeing ourselves, like she said, from carrying that weight. I loved her visual that she gave, the weight of the past. And her message is an important one. You're not broken. You don't have to keep repeating the same patterns. When we release that or let go of that shame and self-blame, we reclaim our worth and we step into the kind of love with ourselves, like she just said, and with others that feels extraordinary. Now, if Riana's insights resonated with you, be sure to explore her Clear to Create method and the transformational practices she shared today. And remember that forgiveness is the bridge, right, between survival and trust, between old stories and new identities. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode today. And until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep forgiving yourself, and keep coming home to who you truly are. Thank you again, Riana, with all my heart. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, would you do me a favor and share this episode and then follow us on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss one episode of the Forgive Yourself podcast, where every Friday you will get tips, tools, and stories so that you can turn your pain into peace. Take care.